So then now, this is a city, Tartu, where I lived when I was young. About the story today, then I lived in the capital city of Estonia, the Tallinn. And I had 2 jobs. I was violinist in a symphony, and I was also pastor in a church. 2 jobs at the small time. Can you understand me? Yeah. As about the situation, why did I get out of Estonia? Well, you have heard quite a bit from your parents anyhow. But that was a political situation. That time Estonia was occupied by Soviet Union and Russia. They came from here and occupied the country. Why? And I saw it also, but I wouldn't, that gets into politics. I leave that out. But at any rate, we were under, and it was very difficult because, of course, it was political situation, and whoever didn't agree with communists, many of them were killed, many in Siberia, and so we lost about 1/10 of our population in Estonia because of that wartime and communists also. Well, now then came war, as you know. First of all, we were occupied, red troops, communist troops were in Estonia. I saw them. Yeah. But I had a job, I was violinist in a symphony, and then came suddenly war between Germany and Soviet Union or Russia. War came. And then came German troops in from here over Latvia and came into Estonia, and then from the western part also. German troops came in. I saw them also. But when the communists left, then of course they tried to take as many young folks into the Red Army. I had a brother, he was nabbed on the street and taken into the Red Army, Communist Army.
How old was he?
Huh?
How old was he?
I can hear.
How old was your brother when they did that? How old was he? How old? Kui vana ta oli?
I'm going to draft it into the Red Army. I said, well, it's a matter of life and death. If you wish to avoid it, to escape, I'll try to help you. Or if you are willing to go, then I cannot hinder you, but you have to make the decision, because it was a matter of life or death. He made a decision, and he was drafted into the Red Army and taken into Russia. That was one part of it. Then German troops came in. Why didn't they, by the way, you might ask that why didn't they draft me into the Red Army? Because I was in military age. I was just out of Estonian army and I was playing in a symphony over there. Well, the reason was very simple. They wanted to spare that symphony. So 60 or 70 men wouldn't win the war anyhow, but they wanted to spare the symphony at least, because it takes some 20, 30 years to teach the new ones. So, because I was a violinist, I escaped the Red Army. But look what kind of situation came. Because then came war between Germany and Russia, and my brother was into the Red Army, and Germans tried to draft me into the German army. So I had to fight against my brother. He was in the Red Army, and I was about to be drafted into the German army. But again it happened that because I played in that symphony, they wanted to spare that symphony. And so they don't draft me. Well then, that was more complicated. Came a war between Russia and Finland and so on. And then whoever had a chance wanted to get out of Estonia. And I guess you know from your parents some stories and so on, so that everyone wanted to get out because then German troops were occupied by Germany, but German troops pulled out. Russian troops started to come into Estonia, and we were attacked by Russian Air Force. I was that time in Tallinn, and the city was bombed. And of course I saw it all. In fact, I went to the theater that was Estonia, where we played. And at least had that courage that I saved my violin. I got out that was burning. I got my violin out. And so on. I needed that violin later on. And then, so now comes, that's the reason everybody wanted to get out from Estonia. Lots of Estonians were killed because it was fighting going on, especially that time because here is this Western Sea in Estonian Läänemeri, and Russian warships, then also submarines and airplanes. So lots of Estonians were killed and ships were sunk and so on. So I must add also that actually it was God who got me out, because I didn't have any idea of going out of Estonia whatsoever. But that was a time Red troops were coming back from east here, this way, and German troops were leaving, and the Estonians were about to be occupied by the Red troops again. Then I was notified some people, and that was God, because I didn't have any plans to escape Estonia whatsoever, no plan whatsoever. I was suddenly notified that a boat is going out from Haapsalu. That's about here. A boat is going out, and if I wish to come, then I'm free to come. I didn't know who those people, say, obviously they knew me. And I had any plans whatsoever. No, I didn't do. That time I was also a Christian, I was a believer, and I had a church, and I didn't know what to do. So I prayed God that what I'm supposed to do. Should I leave or should I stay? And then I made an interesting decision. I was told the day when the boat is going to leave. And I thought this way, if God wants me to get out, then he gets me out anyhow. So I didn't go on that date. I went 1 day later, deliberately, to see what happens, deliberately. And then I heard interesting was this, that the previous day they wanted to get out. And they had hidden the boat in the woods over there at Haapsalu, in the woods. And they wanted to drag the boat out to the sea, but couldn't, because the axis, they had the boat on wheels, and it was broken, axis was broken, and they didn't get the boat out, to get out in the sea. The next day, when I came there, they got the boat out. So that's how that was none of my doing whatsoever. As about the wartime, you have heard many stories. I'll go a little bit back. I remember when Tallinn was bombed by Red Air Force. It was all burning everywhere, and it was tragic also. I'll just tell you a little bit of it. Across the street, a big church was burning, and I was in my room, and somebody knocked on me. That was right after the after the air raid, city was bombed, and lots of people were killed and so on. One man was behind my door, and he said me this way. I'll tell you just a little bit of a story, of sideline story. He asked me, maybe you have a paper bag, B-A-G, bag, paper bag. I was astonished. The city is bombed, and there comes this total stranger, knocks at my door and asks a paper bag. I couldn't figure it out. What? Then he told me, well, my daughter was killed and is lying somewhere there, and I wish to gather the remains and put those into the paper bag. So it was a tragic story, and I told you that you might understand what it is. And lots of people were killed on the street, and okay, now I go back again when I left. Well, in the beginning was okay, but when we got out here, I guess we went about this way, to the open sea, that way. And it was quite stormy. And we were in the midst of that Western Sea, Läänemeri. We were in the midst of it. And then the motor stopped. It was a motorboat. We were about 27 people in the boat, and we were packed like sardines. We were packed there. It stopped. So it was quite stormy, and the boat stopped, and we were in the midst of the sea. Well, we couldn't do anything whatsoever. Just look what was going to happen now. But again, God helped us, because then a German warship came and saw us, and they came quite close by, and they sent some boats and got us on the German ship. Well, I would say they treated us quite correctly. They didn't do anything to us. Only they were a little bit provoked. They said in German, "Nach neutralen Schweden wollten sie hin." That was in German. At that time I spoke German quite nicely. And so in the neutral Sweden you wanted to go, those friends of Americans and British. But they didn't do anything, because they took it in some Finnish island somewhere here, I don't know where, about this way. And then I was head of that boat because I spoke German that time. Now I have forgotten quite a bit of it, but that time I was there. And again, God helped me also, because then came time when those troops left, and we were left on the island, and Finnish boat picked us up, police. And again, because I was a violinist, he found it out, and he came there and saw me. We were living in a schoolhouse, no beds, no nothing, just sleeping on the floor. That policeman probably was a secret police, because he was in, the word is muffed, in civilian clothes. And he asked, could I be kind and play for him something, because I had a violin there. Well, I played for him, and he liked it very much, and came back again, and asked again, play for us, play for me. So I played violin for him. He said, well, that fellow, that boy has gold in his fingers. But again, God helped me, because he asked finally, he knew I wanted to go to Sweden. And then one day suddenly I was just taken out and put on a boat bound to Sweden. I didn't do anything whatsoever. And when I was on the boat there, that fellow was also on the boat. And so that's it. God helped me out from Estonia, out from that stormy sea. And that wasn't so simple as I said earlier, because lots of people were killed because there were Russian submarines and Russian airplanes and mines also, mines, explosive, yeah. So I got to Sweden then. Well, from Sweden, of course, I was there for a while, and you asked me that, how could I live there? What did I do there? I didn't know any Swedish whatsoever. I spoke some German and I spoke some English, a little bit school of English. How can I live? But again, that violin. I could play violin. So I played violin in churches or here and there. And finally it came out that I was quite important because I was a violinist, because then some high Swedish, I don't know the English word there, how is eesti keeles on krahv, kuidas inglise keeles on? In Sweden it is greve.
Count.
Yeah, count. Yeah. Invited me to a big party because I was a violinist. I had played for him, and then I played for Red Cross, and that was comical because it was full of all kinds of people and ladies. It was an evening dinner. I didn't have any good clothes or anything, and I didn't speak a word of Swedish over there. And it was a formal occasion, and a lady was given for me also, that I was supposed to bring her, but I call it with a humor, but it is true, to bring her to the table. No, I didn't know where I was supposed to sit, and I couldn't speak a word of Swedish, and she couldn't speak a word of German or English or whatever, Estonian, don't speak about it whatsoever. And so, well, finally I got okay, I leave it now, it gets too long. How did I get to America? Well, I have some friends of mine, and again, that violin playing helped me out, because in Estonia I was a university student also, studied theology. I had a friend of mine who had graduated close by Andover Newton Theological School, that is in connection with Harvard. Harvard, you know. Yeah. And he wrote over there, and they accepted me as a student for theological. So of course I was studying a year there, but actually one of the reasons they were interested was not only because I was student there for theology, I was a violinist. So what happened then, there are lots of American students of the school, no dormitory and then on, and they tried to get by as well as they could. They did dishes and worked in the library, but as for me, I was a good violinist. Whenever Sunday came, then from some American church over there, they brought me out to churches to pray there. So that time I played maybe hundreds of American churches all these years. That was in Massachusetts. Yeah, I had quite good life that time, because next end of the week, again somebody came to get me. And I played the place there again. So the poor American fellows had to work in the kitchen. And I was well dressed and I had to go to somewhere to play. Yeah. So that's why. But the interesting thing, I'll finish it up, is this, you can ask questions later on, was this that I didn't do anything whatsoever. I was taken out of Estonia, and I don't know who sent me the message. A boat is going from Haapsalu, and then I got there. Then, when I was in Finland, I didn't do anything. But that Finnish fellow, that the police or whoever he was, obviously he helped me and got me into Sweden. And then again, I didn't do anything. I was offered that, well, if I wish to go to America, then we are going to help you. And the school sent money for me to get on the ship. So that time, and I came to America. And once I was in the university student over there in Massachusetts, then I had better life than American students had, because they had to work and in the kitchen and the library and whatever. And I went to church and I played violin. Well, okay, that's how I guess got. Now, one little thing I must add. That I really knew that God was in it, because God brought me out. When I was over there in the boat and it was stormy, and the big German ship came, they didn't do anything, but they didn't open fire. Of course, I saw it from the boat that they sighted us out. They had machine guns and so on, and put it there that it was a second or so that they might open the fire. But of course some ladies were in the boat also, and they saw it was not a military boat, we were refugees. So they didn't open fire. When the ship was there, then suddenly I remembered, about 1 year or 2 years before, still in Estonia, I had a dream. And I saw I was high seas in a boat, and it was stormy, and very big warship was there, over there, and I had a very bad feeling. Of course, I don't think that I pay much to dreams, I don't. But when actually the situation came, then I recognized it. Now that is what I dreamt over there. So, and I saw even more. When the Germans took us to the Finnish island, then those fellow ones, refugees who were with me, we were sitting somewhere, some men. I even remember how they were more or less dressed. I remember that. And they were sitting on stones and so on. And when I came there, I suddenly remember I had seen that in dream also. No, don't get me wrong. You see all kinds of dreams, and that I am not the one who hunts after dreams whatsoever. But that really was interesting, because then I recognized the places. And of course, when I saw it in my dream, I didn't pay anything to it. But once in the reality, when I saw it, then it came back to me. Now look, you have seen it before. Okay, I guess. Is it